Okay, I think we're live. Welcome to our Artist Spotlight with Bert Foster. Bert has photography in the Northern Exposure Paintbrush and Camera exhibit that is at our gallery at NCTC. I'm Kristen Eggerling with the Northwest Minnesota, did I do this again? Northwest Minnesota Arts Council. And Bert is with us, and Bert Foster and Trey Everett. Maybe Trey, you can talk a little bit about the exhibit and then we can move into Bert.
Yeah. So I'm Trey Everett. I'm the showcase specialist with the Northwest Minnesota Arts Council. And yeah, we just have this exhibit set up with the Fosters. And so right now we have Bert with us. And it's Bert, his artwork is photography. And actually, it was a little unusual, the setup. Usually I set up the exhibit, but Christine and Bert set up the exhibit this time, and it looks fantastic. So I just wanted to throw that in there. So, but yeah, so we're really happy to have you here, Bert. And the exhibit it goes on until March 3rd, and that's a Friday, so it runs through that week. So we've got a fair amount of time that people can come and take a look at the exhibit and see what it has to offer. So, yeah, so Bert, thanks for being here. And how about if we just start out to tell us who you are and just a little bit about your work?
Sure. So I have lived in the Thief River Falls area for I think about 15 years now. I'm married to Christine, who's also, as Trey mentioned, exhibiting with me. She's a painter and the art instructor at Northland College. And we have 3 kids. And I work as a paraprofessional at Franklin Middle School. And yeah, I just photography is something that I have loved to do for a long time. Really, since I was a kid, I enjoyed taking photos and just have kind of done it most of my life, and kind of gotten more and more into I guess getting maybe a little more serious about it or creative about it as I've gotten older. And particularly probably the last 4 years, I've kind of become more intentional about trying to learn new things. I've taken a couple photography workshops and gotten invested in some new and better camera equipment, and really had quite a lot of fun with that. So my exhibit is kind of, you might say, kind of the fruit of that. It kind of represents mostly the last 4 years of my photography. And I love nature. That's kind of my favorite subject to photograph. I love landscapes, and I'm trying to do a little more wildlife photography. Also enjoy photographing people, but I guess nature and landscapes is kind of my favorite. So my photos kind of center on that.
Okay. And then do you recall offhand how many pieces you have in the gallery?
Yeah, I have 30 pieces total, and I was kind of able to do half of it are black and white images, and then the other half are color images. So there's kind of, I have 2 walls of the gallery, and one are my black and whites, and the other are the color photos.
Okay, right. Yeah, and that looks really nice with when people see the gallery online or you go to it in person, you'll see all the color photos, like Bert said, on one wall, and then the next wall over is all the black and white. So it looks very nice.
Oh, thank you.
Can you talk about doing an exhibit with your wife, melding your different art forms and how this came together and just the experience of it?
Sure. So my wife honestly is quite a big inspiration to me with my artwork. She's been, I mean, she's been an artist for a long time, been a professional artist for a number of years, and she's someone who just she loves to paint. Painting's her main medium, and what she has on display are her paintings. But of course, for years I've been watching her paint, and she's someone who loves to continue to grow and develop. So I've watched her take different classes over the years, from different painters and things like that. So she's really kind of inspired me through her example of how she invests, in her artwork. And then she's really encouraged me as well. Frankly, she was kind of the one who said, "Hey, why don't you take a photography workshop?" And I'd never even done it before. And I thought, that would be pretty fun. So I got to give her credit for kind of giving me that friendly nudge, to start working more on my own artwork. So really I think the idea for a shared exhibit, if I'm not mistaken, might have come from Trey. I think it came from Northwest Minnesota Arts Council. So what happened with me was a couple of years ago, I took a photography workshop. It was a black and white landscape workshop, and I received a grant from Northwest Minnesota Arts Council to help pay for it. And of course, as part of the grant, they want you to share your work with the public. So I thought, well, I'll do an exhibit of some of my photos that I get, from this workshop. So that's kind of what I was aiming towards, was that exhibit. And then along the way, I believe it was Trey said, "Hey, why don't you and Christine do a shared exhibit?" And I'm like, "Oh, that would be fun." So yeah, we talked about it, and it was fun. Again, we kind of helped each other out, picking which of our pieces we wanted to show. And, we'd ask each other, "Oh, so do you think this one is good enough for the show? Or what do you think of that one?" So we kind of have bounced off each other and helped each other along the way. So it's really fun, honestly, to be doing, be doing an exhibit with my wife, because she's a fantastic artist. And just to be able to do it with your spouse is pretty special.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is our first exhibit since I've been here of a couple together. We did have a father-son exhibit,
Okay.
the Balkans. But yeah, I'm excited about this one. This is very neat. Bert, where do you get your inspiration? How do you get inspired? Do you have favorite places you like to go to take photos, certain times of day? And do you have a particular photographer that you've been inspired by?
Yeah. Well, thinking of particular photographers, some of the well-known, even Minnesota landscape photographers that you can think of, the Blacklocks, Jim Brandenburg. I'm, like a lot of people, I'm familiar with their work from, they're kind of all over the place, really. So people like that have really inspired me. It's been really neat to see, people capture the unique beauty of where we live. And of course, there's other names out there that, landscape photographers that take photos all around the world. And I that I enjoy, but honestly, probably those photographers, as far as capturing Minnesota landscape, have been an inspiration to me. And as I mentioned, I've taken a couple of photography workshops. My first one was with a fellow by the name of Lane Kennedy. He's through the North House Folk School out of Grand Marais. I took a photography workshop from Lane and really enjoyed him, and he was an inspiration to me. He's a really good photographer and a really, really neat guy to learn from and study with. My second workshop was with a fellow by the name of John Greger. And John taught me black and white landscape, which was really fun because honestly, for most of my photographic life, I've just shot color, and color is a lot of fun. I really never did much with black and white till a couple of years ago. And then I took John Greger's class, and he really opened my eyes to what you could do with black and white. And so that was very inspiring as well. So John also has been kind of another inspiration to me. as far as places that I really love to photograph, one of them would have to be the North Shore of Lake Superior. I've gone there camping ever since I was a kid with my parents and have just continued to go with my own family. It's just a place I just love to go. I love to hike and explore around there. And there's so much beauty there. So pretty much every time, I go there before long, I've got my camera out and I'm going crazy taking pictures. So that's one of my favorite places. Really love Itasca State Park in that area. I grew up kind of in the Park Rapids, Nevis Lakes area. And again, that's kind of a very meaningful place to me. We used to go to Itasca growing up and I go there with my family and that's very beautiful too. So I always love to photograph around there. That's the second place. And honestly, just right around our yard here we live just south of Thief River Falls. I like to explore around and try to, see what I can photograph. Just yesterday, I was out cross country skiing with my wife, and our neighbors about quarter mile behind us have this really nice little pond that's surrounded by these willow trees. And yesterday was one of those wonderful winter days like we've had where the frost settled on the trees. We were skiing by it, and both my wife and I were just like, oh my gosh, look at that. Look at that. We're both going crazy with how beautiful it was. And so Chris is like, I think you better come back and photograph this. So sure enough, I skied home and then I came back and went crazy with my camera. So even around our neighborhood, it's fun just noticing the natural beauty. So those are, let's see. Yeah. So North Shore, Itasca, right around here. And then, like I said, I grew up in the Nevis Park Rapids area where there's lots of lakes. That still is home for me. So I like to go back there with my family as well and kind of photograph the lakes country. Those are several places in our area that I love to photograph.
Okay.
Can you talk about your process from start to finish?
Sure. So something that I've kind of learned, I've kind of known it all along, but it's been kind of more reinforced in recent years and I do more now is, for me, honestly, the best times of day to photograph are early in the morning and late afternoon, evening. That's when the light is the most dramatic. I used to shoot lots of photographs in the middle of the day, but to be honest, the light is kind of bland in the middle of the day and it kind of washes things out. So I personally, I do most of my photographing, like I say, early in the morning, maybe shortly after sunrise or late afternoon, evening, a little bit before sunset. So those are kind of the prime times that I like to photograph. I find a place that I know I like, or like I say, if the light conditions look right, I just grab my camera and run out or whatever. I use a digital DSLR camera, which I personally shoot manually. So I do my own, shutter speed, aperture settings, that kind of a thing, because I like to control how my images are going to come out. Often when I'm shooting manually, I will take more than one picture of a scene. Just because I've discovered that little changes can really change things. If I shake my camera just a little bit and I blow that image up, I'll find it's a little too blurry. So I'm kind of in the habit of I'll shoot at least a couple quick shots of the same thing to, make sure I'm getting an image that hopefully is not shaky or blurry. I'll sometimes just tweak my shutter speed or my aperture slightly, and again take multiple photos with just slightly different settings to get different light color images in the final image. So that's how I tend to photograph. I take a lot of photographs. I've discovered for every 100 photographs I take, I like 2. So I'm a little picky, obviously, but I've learned from other photographers that's what you have to do. You just have to shoot a lot, and then out of the many, you'll have a narrower group that you like, and then out of that group, you'll have a smaller group that you really, really like, and then once you start looking at them up close and in detail, you'll narrow it down. So I tend to take a lot of photos, and with digital, it's easy, of course, because, you got a card and they're all stored on there. It's no big deal. So that's kind of, I guess, my process when I'm out taking pictures. Then when I download the pictures onto my computer, I edit them in Photoshop. And honestly, I'm just kind of I feel like I'm a beginner learner in Photoshop, to be honest, but I'm learning more and more how to use it to edit photos. But that's where I do my photo editing, is in Photoshop. And of course, for people who've used it, I mean, it has tons of features. There's so many things you can do, to modify a photo. And let's see, one other, I guess, technical bit of advice for photographers out there. If you're a person, if you shoot with a DSLR camera and you would like to maybe blow up your photos, enlarge them later, I would recommend I shoot in what's called RAW format. And RAW is the most, I'm not very good on technical terms. It has the most data in it. It has more data than a JPEG format, for example, so that when you're editing that file later, there's more you can do with it. There's more types of adjustments you can make to it, and you can add more color, or you can make it darker or lighter. There's just way more you can do with RAW format pictures versus a JPEG. And they also enlarge better. So I shoot in that format. And like I say, I use Photoshop to edit. And then just this year, and again, thanks in part to a grant from Northwest Minnesota Arts Council, I purchased a large scale printer. It can print up to 13 inches wide. So my photographs for the exhibit that I did this year, for the first time, I printed myself using that printer. So that was kind of fun. So yeah, I do my own printing using that printer.
How do you decide when a piece of art is finished? How do you decide, okay, this is exactly what I need or what I want? How does that work for you?
That's a great question. Sometimes it feels like it's never finished. Because with any image, it seems like you're always thinking, "Ooh, I could do this or I could do that." So sometimes deadlines help. To be honest, the deadline that I had for this exhibit was some of my images. I went, you know what? I think I could do this or I could do that, but you know what? This needs to be good enough because I've got an exhibit. Others, I don't know. You kind of have to step back sometimes and ask yourself, okay, what's what's my goal with this picture? What's most important to me? But that's a great question. I don't know if I can answer it better than that. And then sometimes I just have to go to my wife and get her advice. What do you think of this? And it helps to get other people's input as well, because sometimes you can drive yourself a little bit crazy if you're just working on it yourself and you keep, feel like you're never done, or you keep reworking it. So I like to get other people's advice as well.
Do you sell your photographs, or do you offer any services, workshops or anything? And are there a number of the pieces in the exhibit, are they for sale of yours?
Yeah. So at this point, I'm not doing any photography teaching myself, although it's definitely something that I'm interested in, and I'm hoping to eventually get to that point, maybe where I could do some workshops myself. I just think that would be really fun, and I'd like to share it with others that way, but not right now. In the exhibit, everything's for sale except for one, which is a photograph of my daughter. Can't buy that one. But otherwise, everything in the exhibit is for sale. And I do sell all my prints. You have the option of buying them unframed if you wish, and that's of course cheaper. Or you can buy them in the frame, and there's a little more charge if you buy it in the frame. And if anyone happens to see any of my photographs and says, "Hey, I'd like a print of that," and you have a size in mind, I'd be more than happy to print you a photo in that size. And like I say, if anyone wants to talk to me about, well, how much do you charge for this size or whatever, please feel free to contact me, and I'll be happy to tell you. I have a pretty much a standard, charge depending on the size of the print, and I charge the same for whether it's black and white or color. But I'm more than happy to make a print of anything that anybody likes, and they can buy that.
If someone asked you to do photographs of a certain thing or person, would you do that, or is that not something you're interested in?
I would be open to doing that. Yeah. Yep, for sure.
Okay.
And I do have, excuse me, as far as photographing people, I do have a few samples available of pictures I've taken of people, if anybody would like to see something in advance to kind of see what I do. Yeah.
And then, do you have a website where people can look at any of your work, or how, if they want to contact you, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, I do not have a website at this point. I may set up a Facebook page where people can check out my photos. I think that'll be a next step for me. But right now, excuse me, the best way for people to contact me is they can email me. My email is my last name, Foster, Foster, followed by my first name, Bert, Bert, 1987 @gmail.com. That's a good way to get hold of me, or people are free to call or text me as well. My phone number is 218-689-4027.
Okay. And does your work comment on anything that's going on in society right now? Does it comment on anything political or social issues or spirituality, anything like that?
Yeah. So no. My work at this point is not really what I would consider commentary work, I guess. For me, it is spiritual, in that I personally, for me, when I look at nature, for me, nature is a spiritual thing. And I love being in nature. It brings me a lot of peace. It brings me a lot of joy. I personally believe that nature was created. So I guess you could say my enjoyment of nature and kind of how I capture that in photography is an expression of that. But beyond that, there's not really any particular commentary in my photos. Other than that, I hope that they can be a window for people. I think that creation, nature, it speaks to people in so many different ways. So I hope that my work can be kind of maybe a window for people to see the created world in a way that I don't know. I think everybody might have a slightly different experience, but I hope that my photography brings people peace, as they get to experience it, or it might spark joy, because those are the things that it does for me, and I'm hoping it would do the same for others.
This might be similar to what you've been talking about, but can you talk about art and the impact on society?
Sure.
How it's important, I guess.
Yeah. I think art is extremely important to a healthy and whole society. I think art can express so many things and capture so many human experiences, really, and I think there's a place for all kinds of art. Back to Trey's question, I mean, there's an extremely important place for commentary art, art that addresses political matters or social issues, social concerns, and there have been some great photographers who that's been kind of their type of work, their focus. So there's that kind of photography, obviously there's journalistic photography that tells specific stories that can be so powerful. And then there's photography that's maybe more art photography. I guess that's what I try to create. And I think that that's important too, because I just really believe that good art, it really elevates people, it can really lift us beyond our own little world or our own circumstances into maybe a larger world, a larger vision. I think great artists just have a way of doing that. They help us to see the world in a new way, or they may remind us of things, things about life or human experience that we've forgotten that, again, is kind of transcendent. So I'm married to an artist, so I'm biased, but I think art has wonderful potential to just improve our world and elevate people, and through its beauty, through how it connects us with our emotions or experiences we've had. So again, I hope to be a part of that with my photography. That hopefully my art also is elevating to people who experience it.
If you could give your younger self any advice concerning photography, what would it be?
I think it probably would just be practice, 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 and don't. Well, so something that my wife was told by one of her art instructors years ago, a professional painter, is he said, you're going to have to do 500 paintings as an artist before you finally start to really get it, and she said, that's right. You just have to really practice. You just have to keep working at it. And eventually you catch your stride and things come together. And so I've discovered that that's true for me as a photographer. So if I were to go back to my young self, I guess I would kind of urge myself to, hey, just, get out there more, just take photographs more and just keep practicing. And, the more you do it, the more you kind of discover your own style and your own vision. And, so yeah, any art form, just get out there and do it and try it and learn along the way.
I know you mentioned some of the Minnesota landscape photographers. Who would you say are some of your biggest influencers?
That's a really good question. I'm probably not even aware of some of my influences. It'd be fun to hear, have someone else look at my photographs and say, you remind me of so-and-so, and you know what that was. But like I say, I think Jim Brandenburg is a photographer that I've really been influenced by. I've always enjoyed his work. And he has an amazing eye. His compositions are so wonderful, and it's all nature. So that really influences me. There was Craig and Nadine Blacklock, are some pretty well-known Minnesota photographers. I really enjoy their work as well. That's also nature landscape stuff. And I'm sure there's others that I'm not thinking of the moment. When it comes to black and white stuff, of course, Ansel Adams. I mean, how can you get any better than Ansel Adams for black and white? That definitely influences my growing love for black and white, because I'm like, oh, maybe I could just capture something that's just a little bit like an Ansel Adams. So he's a great photographer that I think probably influences me as well. And then my last instructor, John Greger, who did my black and white photography workshop, he's on Facebook, by the way, if anyone wants to check him out. John, Gregor, Cold Snap Photography, great photographer, wonderful stuff. And yeah, he's been an inspiration to me too.
What about creative blocks? Do you ever have periods of time you just can't you don't feel the creativity, you can't seem to nothing really seems to catch or connect? And if you have those times, what do you do to work your way through those?
Yeah, I think for me, I definitely have periods where I'm not motivated to go out and take photos. Which probably sounds weird, because if you love photography, why aren't you doing it all the time? But I definitely go through those periods. I'm like, I'd rather just, especially in the winter time where it's cold, I'd rather just sit on the couch and be warm. So what motivates me to get out of that? Again, it helps to have, other people around who kind of spur you on. Like I say, my wife is one of those people. I have another good friend who likes photography, and I'm now kind of playing that role in his life a little bit. I'm like, hey, let's get out and take photos. So it always helps. Well, it depends on who you are, but sometimes it helps me to have someone else to do it with too. That kind of gives me a motivation to get out and do it. And I think it's good. I don't know. I think it's good to have challenges for yourself. I think that helps too. I think what's been motivating for me lately, again, is I'm not, like I say, I've taken color photographs for years, and I found that I can take a pretty decent color photograph without working super hard. But for me to capture a nice black and white image is much more challenging. So I've kind of set myself a little challenge to, really work on the black and white images. So that's been a good motivation for me to have a goal, that kind of motivates me to get out and look for those good images that I think could be a good black and white. So I think it helps to have a goal in mind. To be honest, having this exhibit to get ready for was a good motivation for me. So it's kind of nice if you've got some goal to motivate you. It's good to have other people around that motivate you. And it really helps me to look at the work of other good photographers or great photographers, because that motivates me too, because it's like, oh, I could do that, or I'd like to do that. So it's always, it's nice to continue to expose yourself to people who are just really great and inspirational. That helps too.
Do you have any work handy that you want to show right now?
No, I didn't actually. I didn't bring anything with me. That would have been kind of fun to do, but I don't have anything with me right now.
And this may piggyback off your advice to your younger self, but if people out there that are maybe listening to this, that of all different ages, that are interested in photography, but they're really not, maybe they feel intimidated, they're really not sure how to get started, what advice could you give to them?
Yeah. So I'll kind of share my own experience, and then maybe some general advice that might be helpful to people. Personally, for me, some people find it really motivational and helpful to kind of, go on the internet and find videos or things like that, which there are many of. So if you're a person that works for you, I'd really encourage you to, find the name of a good photographer. There really are many on Facebook or on the internet, and look at their work. And then many really good photographers will do teaching videos like through YouTube. So that's a great place to start. And there, if you just Google things like how to compose a good photo, for example, that's a good, beginning spot for photographers, because they're all like, well, how do I kind of frame up what's going to be a nice image? You'll find lots of really helpful articles on the internet about how to do that. So if you're, an online learner, that's a great place to start to get some good information. Personally, for me, my favorite way to learn is always in person, if I can. I know that's not always possible for people, but for example, in our community here, there's photography classes at Northland College. Go take a basic photography class from someone. You'll learn a lot, and you'll get to be around some other people learning the same thing that you are, and that can be kind of motivational. So that'd be another recommendation I would have to people. But really, again, the internet is such a great resource today. And if you can kind of think of what your specific question is, and you look it up, there really is a lot of good information out there.
Is there anything you want to share with folks that we haven't asked about, or?
I think your questions have kind of covered pretty well the kind of things that I would want people to know. I guess if I could just give kind of I don't know, some general encouragement to people who are interested in photography, I would say, again, the best way to get better at it is just to go do it, really. And I'll little confessional here. I'm kind of a perfectionist, so I have to take this advice myself. Sometimes I worry about getting it all right the first time. And thankfully, as I'm getting older, I'm learning that things don't often work that way, that you get better just as you practice. So I would encourage anyone, who's interested in photography, just get out and start taking pictures. I mean, that's what I did when I was a kid. I didn't worry about how it would turn out, but by trying this and trying that, I kind of began to get a sense for what images I liked. And that's a lot of it, is finding your own style, really, and I kind of found my own style, and, I like this and I like that. And so, yeah, if you're interested in photography, I mean, just get out and try doing it. Go different places, photograph different things, photograph buildings, people, nature. You'll figure out what you love. But, photography could never be any easier than it is today. I mean, good grief. My friend's iPhone sometimes takes better photos than I do with my expensive camera, and I get really jealous. But that's really good news for people who want to do photography. Is the technology is amazing. So yeah, if you've got an interest in photography, just get out and start taking pictures and experiment and try different things, and then take some time to look back over your photos and kind of notice, well, what do I really love? What stands out to me, and what's important to me. And I don't know. You might be surprised. You might discover that you have more of an artistic eye than you think, and that you're starting to discover your own style. So I love photography, and I hope what I've shared here can be kind of helpful and inspirational to other people.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be. Yeah, well, thanks so much for taking time to be with us and to answer questions and to share about your work.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me on here. I really appreciate it. And I guess just one last thing too, if there's people watching this and you have questions about my own work, or even just you want to chat about photography, I seriously, I'd love to talk to you about it and share what I know. So again, I gave my contact information earlier. Just feel free to do that. Don't feel shy to reach out.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to talk photography with you. It'd be great.
That's great. And there is the artist reception for the exhibit is.
Yes, the 31st next week.
Yep.
Tuesday
night from 6 to 8, and that's at Northland Community and Technical College in Thief River. And you can just enter. There'll be a little sign out by door B, as in boy, I believe, is the door that's right next to the gallery. And there's a basketball game that evening, so all the doors should be open, but you could park there by door B and go right in, and the reception will be right there. So hope
Yeah.
to see you there.
And,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
both
watching.
you, Bert and Christine, will be there.
Right.
Mhm. Yep,
Right.
absolutely.
And then, Kristen, when you put this on the website, are you able to write in Bert's contact info if people want to,
Yes, I will give that.
just to make it easier? Yeah. Okay.
Great. Good.
It might not show up on the Facebook post, but the Facebook post, there'll be a link to the website. You can click on it, it'll take you to the website, and then in the post on the website, they'll have your contact info. So,
Great. That sounds good.
yeah.
Awesome.
Well, this
Okay.
is great to talk with you.
Yeah.
You too. Thanks so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and it's a fantastic exhibit. I'm just really impressed with it. So,
Well, thank you.
yeah, congratulations, and I want to encourage anyone to go and see it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm going to end the broadcast. Thanks for joining
right.
us.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.